All right, class. Today we're going to be learning a lesson on multiplying decimals. As we do this, kind of the three things I've listed here for you as reminders about how to multiply decimals is one, that we want to stack our numbers. So just like we've been doing in the past couple of lessons, we're going to use the vertical format and put the numbers on top and below each other. The second thing is we're going to use a right alignment. And then finally, it's going to count the total number of decimals that are going to be in our answer. So if I'm doing something like this, where I say let's do 2.13 times 1.5, okay, I'm not actually going to do this problem, but if we were going to, what I'm saying by these three things are, I want to stack these things on top of each other. So 2.13, and that's going to be multiplied by 1.5. Now, one thing that you're going to notice here on today's thing is this, our decimal points, okay, are not stacked up on top of each other today. We stack the numbers, the 2.13, the 1.5, but the decimal points when you're multiplying do not need to line up. Sometimes they just happen to line up, but that's not a goal of ours to get those lined up. So it's okay that these two things are, away from each other, okay? The key today is, as my second thing here, is to use right alignment. Right alignment is just like if you're writing a paragraph, for an LA assignment. Sometimes there's the left alignment or center alignment, and then you have the right alignment. We want to use a right alignment here, which means the numbers all the way to the right. Those are the ones that have to line up for us today. Okay, and then after we go ahead and do this, okay, if we were to do the problem when we get our answer here, what we're going to do is count the total number of decimal places to find out how many are in our answer. So because I have one decimal place here, and I have two more decimal places here, that would give me a total of 3 decimal places in my answer. So when we were finally able to get our answer, I'd make sure that it had 3 decimal places, which would mean it would have a tenths, hundredths, and thousandths place. Okay, let's go ahead and do some. Example 1, I'll do this one for you. And then example 2, I'll give you guys a shot to do some on your own here. So here we go. We got 5.82. And we are going to multiply that times 4.1. Again, the decimal points today do not need to line up. What's important is that I use the right justification here, so that these numbers on the right, these are the things that line up. Okay, now I can go ahead and start multiplying. So I'm going to start with my first place value here, the 1, do 1 times 2, which is 2. I do the 1 times 8, which is 8, the 1 times 5, which is 5. So basically I took this 1 times each one of these things here, okay, to get my first set of numbers. Now when I move on to the 4, what I have to do is add a 0. So it's my placeholder. So I add a 0 there. Now I can move on to the 4 here and do the 4 times the 2, the 4 times the 8, and the 4 times the 5, and so on. So that's the step I'm going to take now. So 4 times the 2 gives me 8. 4 times 8 gives me 32. I'm going to carry that 3. Okay, when I do the 4 times the 5, that's a multiplication. So 4 times 5 is 20, plus that 3 that I have up there, which is going to give me 23. Okay, so there's all the numbers. Now when you get down to this middle part, this is where we have to add these things together. So working my way down, the first row here, I got 2 plus 0, which is 2. I got 8 plus 8, which is 16. Carry the 1. Make sure you don't forget about that 1 up there now. Add that column. I have 5 plus 2 is 7, plus the 1 that was carried gives me 8. This is going to be a 3. This is going to be a 2. Okay, so there's the numbers that are going to be in my answer. Now the last thing that we have to look at here is how many decimal places. Since I didn't do anything with the decimal point at all in that area there. Okay, the only thing you do with the decimal point here is you have to go back to the original problem and find out how many decimal places there were. So when I look at the 5.82, I look at the 0.82. Because there are 2 decimal places there, okay, and then on the 4.1, that's another 1 decimal place, that gives me a total of 3 total decimal places. So in my answer, there has to be 3 decimal places. So that means starting from the right, I move over, 1, 2, 3 places here, and then that's where my decimal is going to go. Right here, okay, 23.862, because I knew there were 3 decimal places. I have 3 decimal places in my answer, and there's your final answer, 23.862. Okay, let's have you guys try a couple. Okay, Part A, you're going to do 6.45 times 18. And then part B, you could do 1.273 times 0.06. So pause the video, try them on your own. Okay guys, you're back. Hopefully you have answers for A and B. Now let's compare. Let's see if you got them right. So I'm going to start off here by taking A, and I'm going to go ahead and stack these on top of each other. So 6.45. Again, I like to write my numbers nice and large so that everything lines up perfectly. That's going to be times the 18. Okay. Remember my right justification here. So the 5 and the 8 are what I care about lining up. Now I can start multiplying. So 8 times 5 gives me 40. And carry that 4. 8 times 4 is 32. Plus the 4 is 36. So the 6 comes down here. I carry the 3. 8 times 6 is 48. 48 plus the 3 gives me 51. Okay? So now that I did that, okay, I'm going to move on to the ones here. But remember these numbers that were carried, I really don't want those to get in my way anymore. So I'm going to scribble them out for right now. Okay, moving on to the 1 now. I have to add my placeholder in here. Okay, 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 6 is 6. Again, I'm being as neat as I possibly can because I want each of these numbers to line up perfectly for me. That's going to make it easier when I add these things. So write a little larger than normal. Don't squish your numbers together. Be nice and neat. Okay, now I add this going down. 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 plus 5 is 11. Carry the 1. 4, 5, 6. 6 plus 5 is 11. And now it's time to go count up my decimal places. So right here, the 0.45, I have 2 decimal places. With the 18, really the decimal point would be here after it. So there's no decimal places there. So I really only have 2 decimal places in my answer, okay, which gives me the 116.10. And actually, now I can, this is one of those times, 116.1. I can really drop off that 0 now. This is not like a rounding problem where they asked for the hundredth place. If I want, because that's a 0 on the end of a decimal, I can get rid of that if I want. I don't need it. Okay? But you first have to put your decimal point in there to make sure there were 2 decimal places. Okay? And then after I drop it, then it can go away. Okay. If you kept this as an answer with the 0.10, I will never mark it wrong for doing that. That's okay as well. Okay. Next one. 1.273 times 0.06. So 1.273 times 0.06. Okay, again, I'm using this right justification where the numbers on the right are going to line up. Let's go ahead and multiply. 6 times 3 is 18. Carry the 1. 6 times 7 is 42. Plus 1 is 43. Carry the 4. 6 times 2 is 12. Plus 4 is 16. Carry the 1. 6 times 1 is 6. Plus the 1 is 7. Okay, when I move on to my 0 here, I add a place value, and then this is going to just be a lot of zeros. 0 times 3 is 0, 0 times 7 is 0, 0 times 2 is 0, 0 times 1 is 0. Okay, add these together. 8, 3, 6, 7. If I want to put that 0 there, I can. Sometimes it's important just for the fact of when I go back and count up my decimal places that there were 2 decimal places in that number, and there are 3 decimal places in that number. That tells me I have to have a total of 5 decimal places. So again, starting from the right here, I move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I know that's where the decimal point's going to go. So my answer is 0.07638 as my final answer. Again, guys, if you have questions on any of these, please call me over and we can figure it out. Last problem. Okay, a little story problem. It says Central Park in New York City is a rectangular park about 2.5 miles long and about 0.5 mile wide. What is the area of Central Park? Okay. Now you don't need to do this, but I'm going to do it just as a visual. Actually, you know what? Go ahead and pause the video. Try it on your own. Okay. Now we're going to do it together. So you don't need to do this, but as a visual, it does tell me that this park here is a rectangular park. So if I wanted, I could go ahead and draw this. Okay, here's my rectangle. We're going to say that that is Central Park in New York City. And what it's telling me here is that the park is 2.5 miles long. Okay, so that's 2.5 miles long. Okay, and it says that is 0.5 miles wide. Okay, and they want me to find the area of this thing. So remember from our last chapter, when we're finding area of a rectangle, what we're simply doing here is taking length times width. We're doing length times width is what we're doing. So really, to solve this problem, I need to take this 2.5 and it's going to be multiplied by the 0.5. So we can go ahead and do that problem. 2.5 times 0.5. In this case here, the decimal points do happen to line up, but I really didn't care if that happened or not. Go ahead and multiply. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus the 2 is 12. When I move on to the 0, I add my placeholder. 0 times 5 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. Add these, now going straight down, so I get a 5, a 2, and a 1. Looking back up to count my decimal places, here's one decimal place here in the 0.5, one decimal place here in the 0.5, so that's a total of 2 decimal places that we should have. So 2 decimal places here, which gives me the answer of 1.25. Remember, this is an area question. I did say I was going to pick you on the label, going to be picky. So since the label in this case was miles, the total area is 1.25 square miles for our final answer. Okay, that's our lesson for today.